Hello everyone, and welcome to this video review of week 2 of the Introduction to Linked Data and Semantic Web MOOC. We are 2/3 of the way through the course now, so thank you all for sticking with it and getting this far. We're nearly there. We'd like to thank you all for your continued participation in the course. We're seeing lots of really great comments and discussions in the steps. And we are really impressed to see you taking on board the material so well and sort of being there to help each other out and engaging with the concepts that we're trying to get across.
Yeah, so we think we're making really good progress. We're now 2 weeks into the course. There is 1 more week to go. So last week you had an introduction of what linked data is all about, how everything fits together, what the main technologies are, and now we're looking at Sparkle, which is the language that developers use to use linked data, to consume linked data, and to integrate it into applications. So this week we've started with Sparkle. It's quite a complex language, but it also has similarities to some of the languages that you have probably seen in your professional career, in particular to something like SQL, which is a query language that you use in relational databases. So we've started with the language this week. We covered the most important type of query, which is select. We also looked at ask. We looked at the main syntax of the language. From what we have seen in the comments and the way you're progressing with the exercises, we're really impressed to see so many people being so enthusiastic and willing to learn the language. We know it's not easy. Like any new language that you learn, you really have to, at the beginning, put in the hours and the effort to get familiar with the syntax. And we hope the exercises that we have on the course will help with that. Right, so I think now
Yes, so move on to comments. Yeah. And just a quick note about them. We've noticed in the comments that you're providing feedback on the structure and the actual content of the course, and we are really grateful for this. It's helpful for us to plan the next iteration of the course. So thank you for them. We are taking your suggestions on board, and yeah, we just want to say thank you for that. So please do carry on posting comments and having discussions, because these are valuable both for your fellow learners and for us to see as well, so that we can improve things for next time. So moving on to some of those comments, we've picked some out again for this week. So the first is from David in step 1.18, who asks about 4 and 5 star linked data, and whether these higher star ratings of linked data require sort of very high levels of IT expertise in order to be used effectively, and whether this means that small groups who maybe don't have anyone in-house with this kind of knowledge will sort of be restricted from taking advantage of Sparkle. Do you think this is the case?
Well, there are various ways to look at this question, but let me just say thank you for asking us, and thank you for sharing your experiences in working with data with us, because it really helps us understand what the practicalities of developers and data scientists are, and what kind of questions they are confronting, concerns they have in their daily jobs. So the reason why these 5 levels have been introduced is because we wanted to make sure that developers have an understanding, a principled understanding of the advantages and disadvantages of the various formats and methods to publish the data. And we are aware of the fact that obviously the higher you go on the scale, the more complex perhaps the publishing and maintenance process is going to be. Now, whether this means that the technologies are less accessible to some IT professionals, I don't necessarily believe so. I think it is a matter of it is not so much a matter of accessibility, it is a matter of costs and benefits. Not every scenario really requires data to be expressed in RDF. Not every scenario requires data to be interlinked. So it is a matter of choice at design time, at runtime of your application that you will need to make. Because creating an RDF version of your dataset, adding links to external resources will have certain benefits for your application. It is true that some of the technologies that we're teaching on this course are perhaps less accessible than, say, CSV or spreadsheets. On the other hand, if you look at the web 25 years ago, no one would have ever thought that people all over the world will just sit down in front of their computers and code websites in HTML. It has a cumbersome syntax. It is not necessarily human readable, but yet as the technology improved, as our level of education and literacy in this area improved, HTML became more and more common. And I think this is exactly what we will see, and we're seeing with linked data as well, in the sense that people are now thinking about different ways to ask Sparkle queries, to move away from perhaps the rather technical syntax that we are teaching you today, to forms that are easier to fill in for someone that perhaps doesn't have all the insight and knowledge, is not so familiar with the actual syntax. There is work that is trying to map keywords queries, like the ones that you use in Google, for instance, or natural language sentences into structured Sparkle queries, and so on and so forth. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it is a matter of cost and benefit. The higher you go on that stars scheme, the more advantages you will have later on when you have to integrate other sources of data, when you will want to allow other applications to access your data. And then on the other hand, with the emergence of different types of tools to use Sparkle, we will come to a point where probably the easiest way to write a Sparkle, more common way to write a Sparkle query will not be to type in the syntax into text window like you do today with the exercise, but something which is much closer to how we're using the web or how we build websites today. All right, let's just move on to the next question, perhaps.
Sure. So that comes from Lila in step 2.1, who asked whether JSON LD or JSON linked data could be covered as part of the overall linked data toolset.
Yeah, so JSON LD is very, very important for the linked data stack. Just for everyone on the course, so it stands for JavaScript Object Notation. LD stands for linked data, and it is notation, a syntax for linked data that is JSON compatible. Now, this syntax has been proposed because the linked data technology stack was at the beginning less accessible to web developers. Web developers know JavaScript, they know HTML, they know XML, they know how the web works, but we're perhaps less familiar with, say, the syntax of RDF or the syntax of Sparkle. So in the same way, like I was saying at the previous question, that we need different tools, different ways to access and use a language like Sparkle, without necessarily having to write and use a particular syntax that we're not familiar with. The developers of JSON LD have proposed an alternative syntax that is based on JSON, and something that is closer to the way web developers work, because we wanted to make these technologies more accessible for a wide range of developers, and it has been picking up very well. Though it is perhaps a newer technology than, say, the core technology stack, that layered cake that we showed you on the first week, and that's also perhaps the reason why we haven't yet included it in the course. But thank you for the comment and for giving us the chance to explain it in this form, and we'll consider it for the next version of the course.
Yep, definitely. As we said before, the comments have been great. They're just two of many that we've noticed. We're really pleased to see that you are answering each other's comments and helping each other out. And we wanted to highlight two people, David Hardcastle and Pete Edwards, who we've noticed have been sort of really great in helping out other people on the course, providing answers to their questions, offering support, and sort of advice on how to approach things. So thank you to David and Pete. We're really grateful for the extra effort that you've been putting in, and we would encourage everyone to carry on helping each other, and sort of it will help you to cement the knowledge in your head if you're helping.
Yeah, but it's also, I mean, it's perhaps worthwhile emphasizing the fact that this is not a competition. So it is not about asking the wrong question or giving the wrong answers. As I was just saying earlier, commenting on Leila's question, there are topics that we haven't covered. There are things that we perhaps could have explained in a better way ourselves in the course. So it is a matter of us coming together, lecturers and learners, and using the lectures and these topics as a framework to talk to each other and discuss what we think about linked data and its technologies and its applications. So thanks again to David and Pete for helping out. So I think for the last part we wanted to do a screencast, right? Of the
we're going to look at part of the exercise about using limits and filters in Sparkle Query. So I will switch to the laptop now.
And I will say bye-bye, and I will see you all next week.